Imagine you're on this road, 20 miles per hour limit. Imagine that it's dead quiet. You're driving along it late at night, and you're having to do that at exactly 20 miles per hour. And you're not doing that because there's cameras. You're doing that because you have no choice. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about standard speed limiters in cars. And I'm not going to tell you that they're coming. I'm going to tell you that they've arrived.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
Right, so I'm recording this on the 8th of July, Monday. Now, Sunday, something very interesting happened in Europe, and I don't mean the elections in France, because that did happen, but that's an entirely different story, probably something for a different channel. What I'm talking about is the fact that EU mandate from 7th of July 2024 requires all new vehicles to have speed limiter technology. Speed limiter technology. So not speed alert. I used to live out in Dubai. In Dubai, we've had speed alerts on cars. Well, they've had them since forever, and they can be in the form of vibrations, or normally it's an audible warning. But you could even get a nudge from the accelerator pedal or something like that. But normally it's just an audible warning that you hear when you hit 120 kilometers per hour. But they don't actually limit the car. But what we're talking about here is something that actually automatically limits the car. So let me go through this. This is from This Is Money. So all new cars sold in Europe are required to be equipped with speed limiters from this week. Now, before I continue, one of the things you're probably immediately thinking is that, well, this doesn't apply to us. We're in the UK and we're out of Europe. Those are my viewers that are in the UK, for example. Of course, there may be some viewers that, oh look, a Lexus LBS. I just reviewed one of those. Very nice. People are buying new cars. So, obviously there may be people in Europe watching this. To them it's very relevant, but to other people who are watching them it's relevant to you as well, particularly if you are in the UK, because on many of these things, what happens is the cars that got European spec, the UK spec is also sort of enveloped into that, So if your car is spec'd up for Europe, probably in the UK you'll get the same spec. In any case, also, it's financially then becomes more expensive to then have different settings for different markets like that. It is possible, it is doable. But also, on the other hand, I do think that we're actually going to toe the line on this one, because we've had the change of government here in the UK, and that government is likely to go in line with these sort of things. I think that Sir Keir Starmer, new PM, has said that he would be in line with certain things. Hell of a pothole there, and they nearly took the guy's splitter off. There you go. Hey, Keir, would you like to go fix these things first? But anyway, they have said that they will bring some of these laws and things in line with Europe. So it's likely that we are going to have them here as well. So what are we talking about? New vehicles will need to have ISA. What is ISA? Intelligent Speed Assistance Systems, fitted as standard as part of the EU safety regulation mandate. Right. So like it says, when the law doesn't apply to Britain, but most models sold in the UK will ultimately have the same speed limiting technology installed by manufacturers. Right. So what is it and how does it work? Okay. Right, so intelligent speed assistance technology can restrict a vehicle's speed. It can actually restrict a vehicle's speed. Now, you can push through it, but I'll come back to that. How does it actually know what the speed limit is? Let's start with that. Well, like a lot of modern cars, because a lot of modern cars now already have GPS locators in them, and they have traffic sign recognition in them. And this is interesting. I saw this the other day. Check this out. Can you see that? That's an import. That's never officially sold here. It's a tiny little Honda. Little city car. That actually makes perfect sense for here, doesn't it? Maybe not for the police. That's the Honda N1, if you can hear me. And that's a Toyota Corolla police car. It's interesting because I saw a recent press release saying, oh, the police are using Toyota Corollas. But I've been seeing these for months now. So I don't know why a press release just came out recently. But anyway, back to this story. So the ISA, well, it's relevant, isn't it? Because the police are driving along here. He's not doing 20 miles per hour, I'll tell you that much. What's going to happen to emergency vehicles? Well, there must be a way to turn it off. Let's look at this. So this thing, what it does, uses a combination of GPS data, satellite navigation, speed sign recognition cameras, and forward-facing cameras to identify what the speed limit is at any given time and determine if the vehicle is exceeding that limit. If the car is traveling over the limit, the system can ultimately reduce the engine power until the legal limit is met again. So it can actually do that. It will just cut the power, basically. So it gives an example. If you're driving along a motorway, this system will limit you to 70 miles per hour. Now, if you're a subscriber to this channel and you're watching this video or watching my videos on a regular basis, then you're probably shaking your head in horror right now at that thought. But that's what's happening. That's what's coming. So what happens first? Before the system intervenes to lower a car's speed, motorists are initially warned. So you get some kind of warning. So it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the driving the cars that I'm used to in the Middle East, where you get an audible warning. So here it says that the warning is either a visual alert on the instrument panel, or a short audible warning, or a haptic notification. What do I mean by haptic notification? So you might get something, like I said, through the throttle. You might get a feeling that it's resisting you, or from the steering you might get a nudge or something like that. So it just gently vibrates or something and tells you that you're exceeding the speed limit. Or manufacturers can do all three of those things. So you could have a choice of them, or you could have all of them, or whatever. You know, it's basically, it will let you know that you're going too fast, as some cars already do. If the alerts are ignored by the driver, the system automatically slows the car by restricting the engine power. It does not apply the brakes though. This is interesting. So they have not given it authority to be connected directly to the brakes. So the only thing that it can do is it can cut the engine power, or it can reduce the engine power, I should say, rather than cut it, but it can't apply brakes. So it can't take over the braking in your car, although the technology of course exists to be able to do that, because obviously we have, many of the modern cars have auto braking in them now anyway, emergency driver assist systems. But this system will not be able to do that. It will just reduce the power of the engine, right? Now, like I said, this actually came in earlier because European Parliament in 2019 agreed to mandate this ISA technology to combat excessive traffic collisions and injuries on the road. This is what they say that this is supposed to reduce. The technology was recommended by the European Transport Safety Council on claims that ISA could reduce traffic collisions by 30% and casualties by 20% as part of a wider target of achieving zero deaths by 2050. I think the idea of achieving zero deaths is very noble, but it's not actually possible, is it? I mean, you know, at the end of the day, stuff happens, you know? Anyway, that's a discussion probably for the comment section. From 6th of July 2022, every new model introduced for the market for the first time has been required by EU law to have the technology in it. But from 7th of July, i.e. from yesterday, the technology will need to be retrofitted to all new vehicles. So all new vehicles sold, even if they didn't have it, must now have this technology. And what it means that if newly developed cars have got the technology, that's fine because they built it into the system to start with. But if they have cars that have been on sale for a few years now, this is why you're seeing some older cars, even though they're still in their life cycle, they still have life left in them, but they're being killed off. The reason being because now to redevelop the technology in those cars, such as for example, I did a recent video about the Cayman Boxer 718 are being killed off because of the data protection technology that needs to be installed in these cars. And what Porsche are saying is it's too difficult or expensive to retrofit those, so they're just actually taking them off sale. So similarly, the same applies here. Manufacturers will need to install the tech on some long in the tooth models, which have been on sale for a long time. And that might mean that some of these vehicles will just be killed off because it's just not worth it for them. So, will the UK, this story does cover that, will the UK mandate this? There's no denying that speeding is one of the leading causes of casualties on UK road. They give some stats. So they say that in 2022, 1,766 people died on UK roads. 1,711 in Britain, 55 in Northern Ireland. Well done, Northern Ireland. This was a 10% increase on the previous year, 2021. That's probably got to do with the fact that there weren't many people out and about in 2021. Don't forget, you know, so a lot of these figures over the last few years are skewed because of COVID and lockdowns. almost a fifth of these, 19.7% of these collisions, fatal collisions that is, they are said to be caused by drivers exceeding the speed limit. So this is what they're saying. So this is how they're justifying it. The current government has no plans, well, current government, I don't know when this was written. This was written, I don't know when Keir Starmer was in power. It's probably written before that. Actually, when was it written? I'm going to double check the date on this thing. Yeah, 2nd of July, so it was actually just before. So by current government, they mean, so what I said at the beginning applies. But I think that with the new government, I think that this is very much likely to be introduced here as well. So, the Department of Transport tells us it will not be introducing the same regulation on Sunday 7th of July 2024, though it hinted it could be considered after the general election. So even the Department of Transport did say that. We are constantly carrying, this is a quote now, we are constantly carrying out research into how transport users across all modes can benefit from the latest technology, ensuring journeys are safe, reliable and cut emissions.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Are you enjoying the video? Well, make sure you've punched the like button. It helps.
So some manufacturers, of course, have already been doing this. So Volvo have had this, Renault, Dacia have had this. The SMMT, Society of Manufacturers and Traders in the UK, said that although makers will be required to fit these vehicles sold in the EU with the ISA, it is up to the discretion of each brand to do so for the UK cars. So even if we have them or we don't have them, the technology will be in the cars. Right, so what do you really want to know? Can they be overridden? That's what you really want to know, right? The ISA can be overridden for a short period only. So the driver will push hard enough on the accelerator to overcome it, so they actually bring, so if you find yourself in a situation where a car is slowing you down, you're like, no, I'm in the middle of an overtaking maneuver. I need to get past this or that truck is going to slam into me, right? You can override it. So you can push the pedal down and off it will go. This will allow the car to go above the permitted speed limit for a short amount of time, and then the alert will re-engage and it will all happen again. It can be turned off. So this is interesting. Like a traction control system on the modern cars, right? It can be turned off, but they're not always going to make it obvious. So for Renault, for example, will have a button on the steering wheel that tells you can turn it off. And in other cases, you'll have to go into the menus and sub-menus to find where the system is that you can turn it off. The trouble with that is that the Renault system is good because you hit on the button every time you start the car. But if you have to go into the menus and stuff to turn this system off, what it means is that every time you start the car, it'll re-engage again. And then you'll have to go through and turn it off again if you don't want it. So you can still turn it off. You will still be able to turn it off, but I think they're going to make it a bit of a nuisance to do so.
Check this out, guys. It's my book. It's my first novel, and it's written for car fans like you. It's a fun political action thriller. It's full of cool cars and spectacular action. Get your copy now at Amazon.com.
Okay, the technology comes with a few concerns for drivers, from the amount of control motorists will have over their vehicles to the reliability of the technology. Of course, don't forget that this is reliant on the car understanding what the speed limit is, and there's many cases where I have seen some of these systems show the wrong speed limits on the dashboard because of confusion with the signs and stuff like that. So there are instances where the system will definitely get confused, no doubt about it whatsoever. It raises concerns over the responsiveness of the driver technology in an emergency. Another potential issue is that it could lead to motorists becoming more reliant on technology and less aware of their surroundings. So this goes back again to all the driver aid systems, where when you start to rely on the driver aid systems, then what happens is you stop relying on your own common sense, on your own alertness, on your own skills and experience, because you just think, oh, well, you know, so for example, like right now, you know, as a driver of a car, my car doesn't even have cruise control on it. The cruise control is my right foot, so I have to monitor my right foot. When you have all the systems in the car, you're like, oh, I don't even know what speed I'm doing, I just, whatever the car says I'll do, you know, and that's not necessarily a good thing. A recent poll of 2,000 drivers in the UK found that more than half, that's 53%, are regularly unable to read road signs because of being obscured by foliage. So this is the other thing, so road sign recognition systems may fail because of that. And then a GPS signal can sometimes be difficult, as we all know, with our phones. A GPS signal can be sometimes difficult to get in rural parts of the UK. So that also could cause an issue. Right, so Which magazine, consumer group Which, has also found ISA to be unreliable on some of the cars it has tested. They have multiple experiences where cars registered the speed limit as being 80 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone, and encountered instances on 70 mile per hour dual carriageways where the car has mistakenly detected the 30 miles per hour limit of an adjacent road. So imagine you're on the motorway, and not only does it keep you to 70, but then tries to put you down to 30, in which case you're actually illegal, because there is such a thing as a minimum speed limit as well. So that, and it's also dangerous. You know, imagine a truck bearing down at you at 70 miles per hour and your car automatically reduces to 30 miles an hour. Do the drivers want it? So insurance company Admiral polled 2,000 UK adults in 2022, found that almost half, 47%, are in favour of the new technology being mandated for new cars sold in the UK. Who are these people? Bring them to me. 47% said, yeah, we're happy with this. Okay, that's fine. Only 18% of those quizzed against its introduction were against it. Only 18% were against it. And the remaining people, 35%, unable to give their definitive verdict, as they didn't know what it meant. They didn't know what it is. They didn't know how it works. So that's a typical thing, isn't it? Most of those that supported it, they did so because of road safety, 68%. And a similar percentage, 64%, said it will help to eradicate the age-old issue of motorist speeding and putting others in danger. So, you know, this is a concern. It's a fair concern, because even like, you know, I live around here in northwest London, and every now and then you see people that are speeding unnecessarily, and you go, why are they doing that? You know, and you just think, you know, if there was a way, so, you know, sometimes speeding makes sense, but sometimes, a lot of the time, it actually literally doesn't make sense. And even as a car enthusiast, I see people and I go, that's too fast for these conditions. Why are you doing? I was actually being tailgated earlier today by somebody on that 20 miles per hour road, and I was like, why are you doing that? There's, you know, and the thing is, you know, he kept having to dive in to avoid cars coming the other way, and it's just like pulling unnecessary maneuvers. It's just not a good idea. That's interesting. We walked all the way around, and we've caught up with that Lexus LBX I saw earlier. Here it comes. Look at that. Isn't that interesting? So it was walking really faster than driving. Well, this is the high road, and it's always very busy. Anyway, I would love to hear your comments on this, and I'm sure that you will have many comments on the fact that the speed limiters are actual physical limiters, and they will stop you from speeding unless you take the time to turn the systems off. Would you do that? Would you leave them on? Should we have this? Should we have it in the UK? Are we going to have it in the UK? I'm looking forward to seeing your comments.
Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.